Welcome back to r/neighbors from hell, where people share stories about their crazy neighbors. And if you are new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our amazing community. And without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. The first one is titled "Farmer Built a 25-foot hate tower after entitled city neighbor cut down his hedge and damaged his property." Hey everybody, my friend told me about all the stories regarding farmers being posted lately and thought that everyone would love to hear what happened between me and my neighbor. Next to my land used to be another farm, but with rough times it closed and the plot of land went up for sale. Some guy in the city decided he was going to buy the land to expand. See, this guy already had a business and the only thing between it and my land was that farm lot. When he bought it, he basically just got to expand, and before he even did anything, I knew that this guy was an entitled jerk that really did not care about anyone else around him. I swear the only good parts of my day were when his business was closed and he went back into the city to sleep. Just to give a little example of why I hate this guy so much, I'm going to tell you all a conversation that I had with him. Now, this is actually the first time I ever met the guy, and it was right after he decided to buy the land next to mine. Him: "Hello, my name is Name and I own business. I just purchased the land next to you and I was wondering if you were interested in selling." Me: "Listen, I'm not selling my property." He did not seem to like that answer and instead continued talking. Him: "I could really put this land you are living on to some good use for my business. And this way you get money and can afford to move somewhere else without any financial difficulties." Me: "My land is being put to good use now, growing crops and raising livestock. I'll say it again, I'm not interested and you are not getting my land." Him: "Well, don't come crawling to me looking for a handout when you go broke, and I swoop in and buy the land for half of what I would now." I closed the door in his face and could not imagine the nerve that this guy had. The first time meeting me, and instead of acting like a neighbor, he tried to make me sell him my land. I know that for this story I call him a neighbor, but honestly, I feel like that word should be used for someone that has even a little bit of respect for you. Anyway, I knew that it could only go downhill from there, and it was not the first or last time I would have issues with this guy. For starters, it was not the first conversation we would have about him trying to get me to sell him my land. The second thing was that for a while he was using the empty farm lot as extra parking for people coming to his business. Now that he was expanding though, he needed new places to park and for a while encouraged customers to park on my land. I put up signs that anyone that parked there for his business would be getting towed, and that seemed to put a quick stop to it. Finally, things came to a boil when he decided that the land he got just wasn't good enough and needed to encroach onto my property. I don't have a traditional fence around my land, and instead I opted for a more natural and green approach to using a hedge to separate the properties. I was proud of that hedge, honestly, and I put a lot of work into making sure that it was neat and presentable. Imagine my shock when I see one day that half of it was just gone. I was furious. I can see the person that is doing it and I run up to him yelling at him about destroying my hedge. He explains that neighbor hired him to remove it and claimed that it was from the old farm property and did not know it was mine. He stopped at that point, but half of my hedge was just gone and I was not going to sit down and take it. I could see my neighbor looking at me really smug and knew that he knew it was my hedge and he was not done trying to mess with me. He built one of those tall advertisement signs so that people can see it from the main road, and it would basically tell them that his business was there. He took down my beautiful hedge to replace it with a giant metal advertisement. Since it was on his property though, I could not do anything about the sign. Also, I was told that suing him for the hedge was possible, but courts were backed up for things like that and it would take a while to get anything done. I was left with only one option, and that was to teach this guy from the city that messing with people out here is a bad idea. I thought about trying to put some new shrubbery in or something, so the giant hole between properties wouldn't exist, but then I got a much better idea. On the other side of my farm were bales of hay lined up that were going to be the feed for the livestock in the winter. Looking at it though gave me a crazy idea, and I knew what I was going to do. Since they were flat and basically looked like giant bricks made of hay, they could stack on each other easily. They were also heavy enough that even stacked, they were not a danger of getting blown away by the wind. I started my plan and I took them over to where his sign was, but on my side of the property, and started stacking away. After about 25 feet of stacking hay bales, I thought it looked good enough and went to get my truck for the final test. I got out on the main road and drove down, keeping an eye out. I could see my stack of hay and it was totally blocking the neighbor's business sign. Nobody could see it and he was not going to get any business from the main road like he wanted to. As you can imagine, he came over and started yelling at me that he was going to sue me and destroy me. I calmly told him that it was on my property and as a farmer I needed to have hay. I also needed to block the area of the hedge that got destroyed so my animals could stay safe. That last part was not true because they were safe in their own areas on the other side of the farm, but he did not need to know that. I know that if he got a lawyer, he was going to hear the same thing I did about the courts being backed up and that technically I can do what I want on my side of the property. There were no laws about how high you can stack your bales of hay either, so I knew I was not doing anything illegal. I know that when things finally get to it, the courts will try to make us come to some agreement. In the meantime though, I get to enjoy seeing my giant wall of hay every time I have business that takes me on that main road. I can see that he also is not getting the kind of business that he wants to, because people that don't know the area are going to go to the places that they see the signs for as they are driving. I was never going to sell him my property anyway, but I think by the time this entitled city guy is done fighting with me, he wouldn't have the money if he wanted to. Maybe threats are how people in the city do business, but around here, kindness goes a long way. If you want to act entitled and piss off a farmer, well, then you're going to have to deal with him building a wall of hay between you two. And ripe stars, as seasoned veterans of Reddit, we all know one thing that is always true. You never mess with a farmer. And apparently, this entitled city douchebag just learned that lesson. Let's hope he remembers it. And by the way, if you enjoy these stories about farmers getting revenge on others, then please don't forget to post some star emojis in the comments if you want to support my channel. Thank you so much in advance. And the next one is titled Taught a Coworker a Lesson in Revenge. This takes place in the early 2000s. I worked for a very large retail store. I like to learn how to run each department and never turn down a new opportunity to learn something new. One day a manager asks me if I want to learn how to run the layaway department. I say yes and my training began. The first 10 minutes I am in the department, the coworker training me says, "You want to learn how to deal with difficult customers." I say, "Why not?" He leads me to the back room and climbs a 20-feet ladder with a box in hand. The box contained a customer's items recently put on layaway. The coworker gets to the top of the ladder and then drops the box and says that should teach them a lesson. The coworker told me this is what he calls the special treatment. I immediately think this guy is a complete moron because the customers will just return the broken items and the company will eat the costs, which in turn causes lower pay raises for employees. After 2 weeks of learning layaway, I learn candles are the most hardest items to box up. So I decide why not teach this coworker a lesson with candles. So I start putting candles on layaway, one candle at a time. It was pennies on the dollar putting these candles on layaway. I do this for about a month and then the coworker asks, "Why are you putting these candles on layaway? Don't you know how annoying it is to box these up and how much of my time is wasted doing this?" I reminded him of the first lesson he taught me and told him I thought he was a difficult employee. I told him he was wasting customers' time and company money by giving customers the special treatment, and then I walked away. Later that day I get asked to work in layaway. Turns out the coworker got ticked off and walked out. Summer job that led to the closure of 4 restaurants. I, 22 female, got my first job when I was 16 at a specialty restaurant with 5 locations. I worked at the busiest location. It was summer at the time, so I was working 5 days a week from 12 to 10 p.m. The restaurant is set up like Panda Express / Manchu Wok or those other Asian restaurants in food courts where the food is laid out and you pick what you want from the selection. Except it is not in a food court and has its own seating, so more like a cafeteria / IKEA setup. My job is to give / serve people their food, cashier and some minor prep. By 1 p.m. all the cooks have left and I am left with a dishwasher / busboy until closing. 3 weeks have passed and I have not gotten paid anything. Turns out the owner, whom I've met a couple of times, is spending all her revenue in the casino and a lot of staff are not getting paid. Some employees have worked here for years and have over $5,000 of unpaid work. I talked to the owner and she said I can take my daily income from the cash register, cash, no tax, after I do all my closing as long as I write everything down. I did not care at this time as long as I was getting paid, but I didn't know much about the law either since it was my first job. But I did provide them my SIN/SSN, so I was hired legally to my knowledge. The manager that hired me never mentioned cash payments when she hired me. I was getting my pay from the till for about a week until one of my coworkers found out. Obviously, she got jealous and told everyone. Since these people have thousands of unpaid work, they felt like it was unfair that I was getting paid and they were not. At this time the owner was out of country, so I stopped taking my pay from the till to avoid getting in conflict with my coworkers. I mean, the owner will pay me eventually, right? I was young, naive and did not know better. During one of my shifts a delivery came in and they wanted to get paid on the spot. I did not have cash on the till and I could not get a hold of my coworkers to deal with the situation, so the delivery guy eventually left with all the products. That night, the owner's husband gave me a call and he was furious that we did not get the delivery since we needed it for tomorrow because we are low on products. He dropped by to leave cash for the delivery and made me wait until 12 midnight for the delivery to come, unpaid. I was left by myself in the restaurant and I was crying. It was a very stressful situation for me and working here led me to smoke cigarettes. I don't smoke anymore. This was my breaking point. I wanted to quit, but I was afraid that I would not get all my hard-earned money. The job is easy, but all the coworker drama and the crappy treatment of the owners got to me. I kept working in this location until the end of summer with over $3,000 of unpaid work, not adjusted with overtime and holiday pay. I did eventually get to talk to the owner on the phone and all I got was, "It is what it is." I did not show up for work on the last day of summer. After I did not show up, I filed a claim with the Department of Labor / Ministry of Labor. When school started, the manager from their other location asked me to come work for her on weekends. Of course I said no, but eventually agreed when she said that I will be paid after my shift with cash. The owner never came here to take the revenue for her gambling and she is still out of the country, so I did get paid after my shift. Everyone that worked here was a lot nicer too, since everyone was getting paid. I asked my unemployed friends to drop off their resumes. The owner did not know that I was friends with these people and she eventually hired one of my friends as a dishwasher to work with me. The manager leaves early on weekends and it is just me and my friend in the restaurant, so I would give out food to my friends, customers that I know and family for free. Not my food cost, so I did not give a damn. I know it's an a-hole move, but keep in mind the $3,000 that they still owe me. Everyone that worked here knows all the bullcrap that is happening. Business has always been doing great to the point that the owner was able to have 5 locations. Everyone was getting paid on time and were given bonuses during the first few years of the business until the owner started going to the casino. Her attitude changed and stopped taking care of the business. She would even get mad at the employees for paying the bills instead of keeping the cash for her gambling. We've had times that our electricity got cut off and could not operate as a restaurant. Producers / suppliers are also refusing to deliver products unless we paid right away. They are not getting paid on time as well. The owner mainly ever goes to the restaurant locations to take cash. out of his pocket to pay for the restaurant expenses. From what I've heard, their marriage went down the sewage since the wife started gambling and coming home from the casino without her car. There were also rumors that the husband cheated that led to the wife's gambling problems. I believed all the rumors since it all made sense at the time, but no confirmation until now. I also found out that one of their locations had to close down because they did not pay the lease. They are now left with 4. We are the only second location I'm working at, where this staff gets paid on time. Except for the manager, who also has unpaid wages from years before, and my $3,000 from summer. Everyone else here is new and are getting paid on time. 2 weeks have passed since I worked part-time at the other location. I started getting calls from the labor department about my claim. I told them everything, staff not getting paid or the owner is paying cash, plus all the crappy treatment that I did not mention above. Of course, the government does not like it when we don't pay our taxes. I kept a record of my hours in my notebook. I also had text messages from my coworkers about the working conditions of this place. I kept working here while my claim was being processed and while the owner is out of the country. Eventually, they got the letter a couple of days after the owner came back and she was enraged.
How do you have the audacity to work here after you file a claim against us?
She was not aware that I didn't show up for my shift when I was working at the first location and was hired by the manager in the current location. So I got fired. I went on with school and eventually got paid $5,000 plus for my unpaid hours and the trouble. The labor department gave them crap as well for not paying a minor. It seemed like they were taking advantage. That was basically my first paycheck, quite a lot of money for a 16-year-old. I started working at a food court elsewhere, totally legal, it's a franchise. One day I was approached by one of the cooks at the first location who recognized me. They all knew what I did and that I got paid, and he wanted to know how to file a claim. I told him everything, what he needs to do and all the proof/evidence that he can provide. I also told him that whoever files a claim will get paid, and I encouraged him to tell everyone. 2 months later, my friend that knew about the situation started tagging me on an article posted on Facebook about the restaurant. Over 4 people have filed for a claim and the owner is forced to pay over $50,000+ for unpaid wages, overtime and interest, plus $2,500 plus administrative fees. I later on found out that they got audited and more people started filing for claims. A lot of people that worked there before and is still owed their wages also filed for a claim. A food inspection in one of the other locations uncovered several serious health and sanitation infractions. All 4 of their locations eventually shut down. I know it is not an intentional revenge and the restaurant could have closed down any time due to their debt, although my friends still joke about it to this day that I added fuel/spark to the fire/kindle that led to the closure of all their remaining locations. I'm just glad I got my hard-earned money. And I gotta say guys, this was sort of a special revenge story because it was a little bit more passive than usual, but still I found it very satisfying if you ask me. And by the way, speaking about restaurants, what was the best/your favorite restaurant that you have ever been to? Let us know in the comments, preferably with a location so maybe people can visit it as well. And the next one is titled, New Coworker Does Not Want Help, Okay. Hello all, back again with more chaos. I guess it does not surprise anyone now that I worked in healthcare, so let's get onto another healthcare job post. Note, this story is old, I've not worked at this place for years, also this is not the same job as my post about helping my coworkers. Story time. I worked in a pharmacy dedicated to sending medications to nursing homes. Since this is often difficult to do just by hand, there were machines that could help out. I often helped use the machines to package the meds. A new coworker joined my team. She was pleasant enough, but for some reason I could not tell you, even to this day I hated her on sight. Apparently the feeling was mutual, though we were able to work together cordially enough. Since the machines, while super useful, were also prone to breaking down, a lot of manual intervention was required to ensure smooth operation. Since it is a pharmacy, we also had to keep track of the medications being used on it, which means counts often done nightly, particularly with more expensive medications. This information is relevant. I had been at this job for a few years, so was reasonably experienced with the use and maintenance of the machines. Coworker wasn't. This is also where I point out that coworker is older than me. So, coworker had been at the job a few weeks and had received some training, so my boss at the time, I've written a post about that creature elsewhere, told me that I would be okay for her to shadow me while I worked, but also to make sure she did some of the work on her own so she would learn via hands-on experience. This also meant I could not leave until the coworker did, since she hadn't been given the go-ahead to be alone with the machine. Goody. It went more or less okay for the majority of the shift. I let coworker do some of the work as ordered by my supervisor, and she seemed to be getting it. However, for some reason she was not relying on the computer, which had kept track of all the medications used and their corresponding slots, to do the nightly count. Instead, she was literally writing down every single slot and medication by hand to count later. Coworker, I said, you know the computer keeps track of that?
I know it does, OP, but I don't seem to get how to do it.
This is toward the end of the shift, and my nerves were fried from having to deal with her, and I was tired. You do it like this, coworker, shows her.
I don't get it, OP, so I'm just going to do it by hand. You younger people don't seem to have a problem with computers, but I do. Let me do it by myself.
People. The process to see what had been used was literally 2 clicks of a mouse button. I had shown her once at the start of our shift, and our supervisor had shown her during initial training. Another coworker had shown her while she was training. I was done. So I let her do exactly what she wanted, let her write down every canister by hand, every medicine by hand, and let her count by hand. I even offered as a show of good faith to help with the counting, but again,
no, OP, I will do it. Let me do it by myself.
Fine. As a result, we ended up leaving an hour after our shifts were supposed to end. That is an hour of OT that we hadn't been authorized to take, for the record. Next day, my supervisor asks me why I had stayed so late last night. So I told her very honestly that coworker did not want my help finishing out the necessary counts last night. Supervisor, being what she was, yes, my wording here is deliberate, immediately went and ripped coworker a new one. The day after, coworker did not come in. We all found out she had quit, effective immediately. Good riddance, I guess. Bonus aftermath, I also found out the day after I had to stay so late that the counts coworker did. They were wrong, all of them. And the next one is titled Strange Grocery Store Encounter, posted by user Stacy Rose on our own subreddit. I had a strange thing happen at the grocery store I always go to when I am looking for the freshest produce, because I really don't want the produce Walmart sells. So I went to this grocery store, grabbed a shopping cart, was walking around the store following the arrows on the floor and just putting things in my shopping cart. As I was doing this, a strange lady kept walking up to my shopping cart and grabbing the items I was putting in it to put in her own cart. At first I was confused, but after a while I was getting pissed. Each time it happened, I would just grab another item off the shelf of the same thing and put it in my shopping cart just to have this lady grab that on out too. Finally I got fed up and said, "Excuse me? But what do you think you're doing?" The lady just looked at me and ignored me, so I shrugged my shoulders and walked away, figuring I could swing back around grabbing that item later, but nope, this lady followed me around the store and it was getting ridiculous. While this was happening, there was a man following us watching the whole ordeal that I did not notice before. The next time this lady took something out of my shopping cart, I loudly said, "Lady, what the hell? Why do you keep taking my groceries I want to buy?" This lady just laughed and kept doing it. I told her loudly, "This is not funny. I don't know what your game is, but you need to stop now," and walked away. She of course followed me. At this point the man hung back and watched a bit before he actually did something. The next time this lady reached in my cart to take something out of it, this man literally grabbed her arm to stop her with a stern look. The lady was shocked and yelled,
"Let go of me,"
and tried to shake her arm out of this man's grip. He simply looked at her and said, "I've been watching you this whole time. You've been harassing this girl, taking out her groceries from her cart and laughing at her each time she tried to tell you to stop. Now you will be coming with me to the security office because he will be banning you from this store." The lady then said,
"Who do you think you are to tell me what I can or cannot do?"
The man simply smirked and said, "I'm the head of loss prevention, but in terms you would understand, I'm security." He then looked at me and said, "You're free to continue your shopping, miss. I'm sorry about the trouble you went through while shopping. When you are finished shopping, there will be a coupon for you at the registers. Have a nice day." I thanked him and walked away. The lady was screaming while being escorted to the security office. When I finished shopping, there was really a coupon waiting for me. The cashier smiled, could tell by her eyes, and said, "Shane said this was to be used for your purchase. He said you were being followed and harassed in the store. I'm sorry that happened to you. Did you find everything you needed?" I replied back, "Yes, thank you. I just don't know what that lady's issue was." The cashier then said, "I see all types in here and each one is crazier than the last one. That lady has been banned, but they had to call the police because she punched Shane in the face and tried to rip his face mask off." All of us up here could hear the commotion. She started to scan my items and then afterwards she used a coupon which was a save 30% off entire shopping. That surprised me. I was thinking that maybe it was a $5 off coupon or something, but hey, I saved money. I thanked the cashier and then went to the service desk to leave my phone number just in case they needed to talk to me about that lady. The service desk clerk took my name and number and said she will give it to their loss prevention team, and if they or the police needed to talk to me, I would get a call. She thanked me for shopping at the store and thanked me for giving them my number just in case it is needed. Then I left the store and headed home. I still don't know what that lady's issue was, but hopefully she learned something from this today. And ripe stars, with this we have reached the end of the video. However, if you still cannot get enough of my content, then I would highly suggest to check out my endless binge watch playlist, which will soon show up in the left corner of the screen. In addition, I would really appreciate it if you could not only subscribe to the channel, but also turn on the bell notifications, which you can do by clicking on the little bell icon right next to the subscribe button. This will help my channel tremendously, and this will make sure that you don't miss any of my videos. Furthermore, if you want to see additional ripe content that I don't post on YouTube, then I would suggest to head on over to patreon.com/ripeyoutube for more than 50 exclusive videos that you will not see anywhere else. Thank you so much for your amazing daily support, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.